2 minutes.
5:30. The Norfolk Public School District's Board of Education meeting is called to order. Roll call.
Tammy Day? Here. Dr. Patty Googles? Present. Bruce Mitchell was unable to be here this evening. Arnie Robinson?
Here.
Bob Wade?
Present.
Sandy Wolf?
Present.
We have 5 members present, so we do have a quorum.
We do need a motion.
I'll move to excuse Bruce.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Arnie and a second by Bob. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. This is a legal meeting of the Board of Education as advertised by the means specified in board policy. A complete copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the boardroom for your review. A copy of the agenda is available at the desk of the recording secretary. Please stand and join with us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to begin the meeting with our Special Recognition Award for Excellence. Angie Bowman.
All right, so this evening we are going to recognize one of our staff members, and we have a committee that makes this decision every other month. And this month I'm excited to announce that Ms. Lorena Pantoya is receiving the Award for Excellence. Lorena is the Norfolk Public Schools District Interpreter. I did get some information from some that had nominated her and had kind words to say about Lorena. She is unable to be here this evening, but she is watching, so everyone wave to her. I know she was disappointed she couldn't be here, but I was excited we had this opportunity for her to listen in and hear these great things about her. Some of the things that people said are that she always does a thorough and timely job when someone requests something to be translated for the website or other forms of communication. She has a positive can-do attitude. She always keeps the needs of our Spanish-speaking students and their families in the forefront. She's professional, discreet, and trusted by all. She can somehow listen to 2 to 3 minutes of dialogue and translate it, assumingly verbatim. So she's pretty much a superhero. I appreciate how much Lorena connects our community to our schools. She has a great sense of humor, and she's willing to go above and beyond. And there is much more listed here. She will get a copy of this as well, but she will receive a plaque, and she will also receive a $50 gift card to Hy-Vee, which was donated. Hy-Vee has agreed to sponsor our Award for Excellence, so she will get a gift card from them as well. So we're very excited about that. And I believe Mary Lori is going to accept the plaque for her. Do you have anything you would like to say in Spanish or English or?
Lorena did ask me to accept on her behalf, and I said I would happily do that. And I said, is there anything specific you'd like me to say? And she goes, oh, you make me talk about there? And I said, yes. So she said, just gracias. It is a well-deserved honor.
Well, and congratulations, Lorena. I'm sure especially now there's been extra duties in translating, so thank you for all you do. Okay, we're going to move on to the public comments and communication. This is the time during the meeting when the public may request to address the board. If you wish to comment, we ask that you identify yourself and the topic that you wish to address. Each individual's comments will be limited to 5 minutes. Please note that the board cannot discuss or act upon matters that are not listed on the agenda. Therefore, board members will not respond to your comments or questions. If you wish to request that an item be placed on a future board agenda, you may contact the superintendent or her assistant during normal business hours. Also note that concerns related to school personnel need to be addressed to the superintendent using the approved district protocol. Would anybody like to come forward? It's been a while since nobody's came forward. Okay, we are going to move on then to special presentations. Remote Learning Subcommittee presentation. Dr. Thompson.
I would like to start by thanking everyone on the Return to School Committee and the Remote Learning Subcommittee for their continued work to provide our students with the best learning opportunities possible in the safest way possible during the pandemic. Members of the Remote Learning Committee will share a variety of information with you tonight, including their job or directive from the board, the options that they consider, as well as the option that they believe is the best one for Norfolk Public Schools. They will also share parent survey results regarding the number of students that would participate in remote learning if it is offered, the cost of doing so, and a proposed timeline. The subcommittee's job was to determine if a remote learning option should be provided for families, and if so, under what circumstances it should be offered and what it should look like.
Okay, so I'm going to explain a few things to you on behalf of the subcommittee. And I do have some folks in the room that I might be referring to throughout the evening just to ask them to add additional information. First, I just want to talk about we discuss remote learning in a couple of different realms, synchronous and asynchronous. Okay, and just for clarification, synchronous is happening between the teacher and the student, and they're responsive, and it's happening at the same time, and that engagement's occurring one-to-one, or not necessarily one-to-one, but together at the same time. There's some pros and cons related to that. Obvious pros are that there would be personal engagement, and they can have real quick responses with each other. The cons to that particular situation would be scheduling of the shared times. This would need to happen through internet connection, so there might be connectivity issues. The cost is high to have an appropriate student and teacher ratio in this situation, and it does have intense planning on the teacher's part to deliver and assess, and there can be some real extreme burnout on both sides of that screen from the teacher and the student. Asynchronous is when they're learning it on their own time. Students are engaging in the materials during the time of the day in which they have time to do that. There are some pros and cons on this as well. The pros could be that there is more flexibility for both the student and the teacher. You can have a higher ratio of teacher per student in the assignment, and there can be motivation for a student to move quickly through the materials on their own at their own pace. Some cons could be, well, there's a decreased interaction with the teacher, which is kind of the opposite. The course material may be hard for some students, and it could be difficult for students that have low self-motivation. So that just kind of talks about the two different types of learning. When we met as a subcommittee, our first time together, we spent a significant amount of time talking about quality instruction. And I want to read my notes so that I articulate on behalf of the committee what we wanted to express to you. Quality instruction was a reoccurring topic that surfaced with subcommittee discussions. Unanimously, the group stated that best quality of instruction occurs face-to-face. In lower elementary grades, like K through second grade, the need for more traditional setting is of greater importance and need than those of older grades levels like third and up. In order to provide synchronized instruction at lower grade levels, NPS would be required to utilize more teacher and human capital resource than which is currently available. It was reported to us from other schools and the teachers on the subcommittee that arranging teachers to complete both face-to-face instruction while also completing electronic Zoom lessons at the same time is inefficient, ineffective, and overtaxing on a teacher's time and talent, all while sacrificing quality and attention to the learner. As an alternative, we reviewed 2 online learning programs, Acellus and Edgenuity, as well as OdysseyWare, but you'll get a little bit more information on that in a minute. The pre-designed online programs shift the focus from the teacher having to plan the lessons to a focus of a follow-up and providing feedback to students on their work. The next slide. We gathered some important information from other schools' experiences. Some folks at schools have already been engaged in remote learning for their students. Much of what we learned, I've highlighted here on this slide. Many of them had to make very quick decisions, these schools, at the beginning of the year, and they felt like they were under rapid fire in doing so. And because of that, they've had to do a lot of pivoting and shifting along the way. If they're currently using their own curriculum and they're doing it via the Google Classroom and Zoom, those folks had to rework their master schedule. They had to reorganize their in-person class sizes. They had to make very fast instructional decisions. And so it's just not easy to provide that kind of education in that type of setting. And they are also mentioning that they're experiencing some Zoom fatigue. Those that have used a pre-created online curriculum tend to have a smoother implementation process, yet they are still struggling with some connections with students and teachers. All schools, whether they're doing on-site teaching or they're using program teaching, they're all having to struggle with some truancy issues. They did also suggest that we expect a family and student commitment, like create a contract that has some simple consequences and some protocol to follow through for the administrators. A quote given to me by an administrator that I visited with, she said, "Our decision to provide remote learning was a rapid-fire response in August, and we rescheduled and reorganized and offered instruction remotely. However, our failure rate is far worse than we really originally anticipated, and our data is showing low success." And so they're feeling like maybe in their fast decisions, they sacrificed teaching and learning. However, they also mentioned the school that I spoke with specifically, that's where they're teaching in the classroom and they're required to get Zooming done at the same time. They're really sacrificing their teacher and the quality on both sides of that screen. And so it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And it's also a struggle to find the balance between the communication between home and school. Now, as we move forward and we talk about the plan that we have proposed, we would be remiss if we didn't think we were going to face some of these consequences. But we're hoping to have planned and thought through as much beforehand as possible to prevent some risk in those areas. Okay, so the next slide, we considered the internal delivery via Google and Zoom. We've considered Edgenuity, Acellus, and Odysseyware. So the next slide, internal delivery. When we met in small groups in our subcommittee, we met with K4, 5-8, and 9-12 groups. And they really did spend a lot of time having this conversation about using our NPS curriculum and providing that to students. The good things with this is that it does match what we would be doing in our classroom with all the rest of the students, and they would have daily face-to-face connection. However, there were quite a few cons and hurdles that we were having that we just weren't able to necessarily iron out. A lot of those would be the translation of local curriculum to effective, efficient electronic setting. It's a different type of paradigm that they would be designing for a student. So when you consider the time that would be needed to do that instructional shift, create videos or tutorials or put together appropriate assessments to have, check on learning, it becomes a real struggle to pull that together in a quality fashion in the amount of time that we have. Paper packets were also mentioned for certain scenarios, and I don't think that it takes much explanation to understand that just paper packets isn't quite as useful as we hope. The next slide, we have some staffing considerations. If we were to do an in-house grade level curriculum, we would be required to have a teacher at each grade level in that content area. And when you think about in a 7-12, when you think about content area, that's a lot of folks to make that happen. Also, as they get into older class grades, in order to pull that off, we may not have the best teacher in the spot that we need them to help that student. So some other considerations is we really felt like that would be a taxing on our teachers. And again, just to reiterate that pedagogy behind their natural sense, what they're used to teaching, face-to-face coursework, and then translating that into effective electronic instruction, that's a huge pedagogical shift that wouldn't likely be very successful in the amount of time that we have. So, one of the first online programs that we did some research, we had a presentation. It's an online program. It uses video-based lessons, and it's designed at grade level and content areas. Assessments and learning checks have some real-time responses and automated support for incorrect learning. So some of the pros as you go through that, it is adaptable to that student. Both of the two online programs that I'm going to mention have what you would call a dynamic, they dynamically follow the students' answers to assessments to see where they are incorrect and then put in supports to address what's incorrect, if that makes sense. The content is adjustable and it can be tailored to our school priorities. It can collect attendance, track the student engagement. It does have some auto scoring available, so the teacher would not have to score every assignment the student does. The student can work at their own pace as long as it's within the parameters of the goals and the deadlines set into the program. And you are able to increase the rigor or lower the rigor based on how well that student is doing. There are obviously cons to every option in our list. Student-teacher connections would need to be scheduled. That wouldn't just happen naturally and automatically. The student wouldn't necessarily have face-to-face teacher contact every day. It does require some support from home. It could be difficult for students with low motivation or self-initiative. And obviously, we need to have some training for teachers and for our families and students as well. So in this situation with Edgenuity, it would require less teachers than an internal delivery method like Zoom. And it would put more focus on student follow-up and feedback on their work as opposed to them working so hard at putting content online for the students. We've estimated that we would need, based on our survey, 6 teachers if we chose to use this program K-12. Some other considerations with Edgenuity is much better suited for 7-12 than K-6. Edgenuity has made upgrades to their 7-12 program, and so their K-6 area is lacking. We currently are evaluating Edgenuity at the AFS as an addition or a replacement to our current program of Odyssey. I do have a few folks, Dr. Jen Robinson and Mr. Foxhoven, and just see if I have any other staff members there. If you would like to talk at all about the things, and Mr. Foxhoven, you maybe didn't have an opportunity to see Edgenuity, but Ms. Robinson, if you'd like to.
I was able to go to the original, not performance, the original program that we had of Edgenuity, but then I also went to the AFS building to watch it a little bit in action. One of the things that I really liked about it for the 7-12 building was that it has guided notes. You could go through and it would have the notes there and the kids could follow along with them as the teacher was giving their presentation. There was also the ability to have the lecture listed along the side so they could follow along with it as well as listen to it. So if you have a visual learner who needs to read it as they hear it as well for the auditory, that was something that was very positive with it. It had a lot of the instructional model pieces to it where it had some sparks and the teacher could go through and pick and choose what all they thought was important for the students to do as well. That was all a great piece to it. The other piece to it of it is that it has the ability to be bilingual. So you can take the written part of it and translate it. So our students that have a different language learning ability could then also have it in their native language as well. So there were a lot of positive things with the Edgenuity program for the 7-12.
Just to give a little bit more idea of the program, both this and Acellus, they have pre-recorded video lessons for students that were recorded by certified teachers. So kids actually get to see that lesson presented to them. And I just wanted to point out that both of them can also be aligned to our district priority standards. So we would take time before we started to make sure that happened.
If there aren't any specific questions, then maybe you will have them after we talk about all of them. I'm going to go on to the next program that we studied, and it was called Acellus. It too is an online education program that is video-based, has lessons that are designed at grade level and content area, and again, also has assessment and learning checks with some real-time response and automated support for incorrect learning. So both of those pieces are helpful so when a student is working and engaging on something, they know right away if something's not accurate. And then they can be prompted for assisted help there. Whereas if we didn't have that opportunity, they might have to wait to hear back from the teacher. And so that is very handy to have that. One thing I do want to mention that's different about Acellus, they're very similar in nature in terms of that the content's adjustable, it does collect the attendance, it does monitor engagement. So a student could have it on and be in the program and just sit there and not touch it. But the program it'll record if they're actually engaged in the work and working in it. And so both of those programs have that as a feedback to the teacher. Also, one thing about a CELUS is it's a bit more interactive in terms of what Mrs. Robinson mentioned about the guided notes. Okay, that's a little bit more of a mature responsibility of a student that they would be involved in that. In a CELUS, it's more of an interactive, I'll drag and drop my answers into places to answer the questions. So it lends itself to be more compatible for a younger learner. And so in that regard, we saw where that would be more beneficial. Cons to this, again, is like the connections must be scheduled. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling on my words here. You would have less face-to-face connection. It could be hard for students that are low motivated. It does not come with a bilingual option. That's one thing that a CELUS does not come with, that Edgenuity does. When we talk about staffing considerations, we're talking about the same thing as we are with Edgenuity. It requires less teachers. They suggested in their guidance was that you could have one teacher for every 30 to 50 students within grade spans. So again, we were estimating that if we chose to use this for K-12, we would need 6 teachers. It's a good option for K-6, but it does lack some of those tools that Edgenuity offers for 7-12.
All right, the other program we're going to talk about is Odyssey, which is a program we currently use at our Alternative for Success school. Little program information on this one. It is an online educational program that is aligned to the Nebraska state standards and is fully customizable to meet the NPS curriculum, and most of that customization has already been done. Students are assigned reading lessons with short check for understanding questions, quizzes, and then unit assessments. 1 credit is assigned per unit. Most courses have about 5 units in them, which meets with our high school 5 credits per semester, which fits well with our 9-12 program. The pros to Odyssey: it's currently approved and being used by our AFS program. We have had limited use with it at the 7th and 8th grade level as needed. Most coursework has already been developed and aligned to our Norfolk Public Schools curriculum. The credit piece is already in place. It matches up to what our students need 9-12 in order to meet their graduation requirements. We do have a few staff members at the high school guidance team that are already trained to use this program. And then attendance tracking and progress monitoring is available within this program. The cons to Odyssey, and kind of the reason maybe we've been looking at switching, and we've been kind of playing with Edgenuity a little bit at AFS as well here, is that the program relies heavily on reading lessons. There's no video instruction. So therefore, if you struggle as a reader, the program becomes a little harder for you. The advantage for us at AFS is we have staff members there to assist you when you're struggling with those things. If you were completely remote and you wouldn't have that instant feedback from a teacher, that might be a struggle for you. Student can meet, along with the other cons, student-teacher connections must be scheduled. The student doesn't get the daily face-to-face contact with the teacher. I would recommend that there be much support from home. It is difficult for students with low motivation or self-initiative without that one-on-one kind of teacher help with them. And then any new teachers that we bring into this program, we definitely need to train them, and students and family members as well. Staffing considerations for the Odyssey program: does require less teacher than an internal delivery method like Zoom, and is less taxing on the staff. Higher level of staff grading in this program though. Got to get more feedback, assign lessons before students can move on. So a student can maybe work so far, but until a teacher goes in and checks that, they can't go any further. Again, with the staffing, we're looking at one teacher for every 30 to 50 students within grade spans, depending on the grade level, and the amount of feedback needed to help students progress. Some students, once they get into this program, might see they need a little more checking in with staff member. Other considerations for the Odyssey program: it is a good option for grades 7-12, but because of the high amount of that reading to learn piece, it may not be as effective K-6, where kids are really struggling and learning to read and not being able to use that reading to help them learn.
Okay, so just as a recommendation, what we are suggesting is that at preschool, we would not provide a remote learning situation. In K4, we're recommending a solace, and 5-6 a solace, and then from 7-12 edgenuity. We feel like as we studied these two programs, those are best suited for those grade levels and most closely aligned to what we could make happen for our students. Is there any question at this point about either of those programs or the study or any of our conversations and discussions about those items?
I just have a clarification. So you noted the number of teachers required. Where do those teachers come from?
I think that comes up in the slide.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah. Good question, though.
Beth, I have lots of questions, but I'll hold them until the end.
You mentioned before some specific upgrades to Ingenuity in 7-12 that was lacking in the K-6. Can you get into that a little more?
Right. So it's actually two different programs, what they presented. In the K-6 area, it is very, it's hard to navigate in the program. Just even watching the presentation, we were concerned about our younger students being able to navigate and know where to go. There were some other things that were required at a K-6 level that we were concerned about, and that would be printing of worksheets for students, and then they'd have to take a picture of it and send it back to the teacher. And that just seemed like a lot of, we could be harming students that don't have printing at home. So those are some big pieces to that.
All right, the next part of this, so that was kind of the first half, like, what should we do? Do we do remote? Do we do in person? Do we do a program? So that was kind of the first part that the subcommittee looked at, and the second part of this was, who should this be offered to? How do we solve some of those problems that we see other schools are having with lack of involvement, lack of motivation, truancy issues, etc. So the team worked on a remote learning contract. I have provided a remote learning contract on each one of your tables for you to view. The focus on that remote learning contract really looks into an agreement of what the parents, what we're expecting the parents to be able to do to help us out with this process if they're going to be fully at home. Make sure they understand the times when they should be talking to teachers. Obviously, we're going to expect our teachers to use the same school calendar, the same contract hours that they do throughout the regular day. Monday through Friday, 7:45 to 3:45. An advantage to an online program is you can do it at 8 o'clock at night if you want to, just like you can do your homework at night. But if you run into an issue, we really just felt that teachers shouldn't be expected to respond at 8 o'clock at night. I'm not going to read every one of these bullet points in here for you, but a couple of highlights for you. Families agree that if progress is not being made at an acceptable level, as posted within the pacing calendar of the remote learning program, that the students may be required to return to in-person classes at their designated building, as determined by their school administrator. So the key piece to that is, if each one of these programs has So much work that must get done every day in order to be on track to have the work completed by the end of the school year. And if you're not meeting that pacing of that program, we're really going to lose you. 712, K6, we're going to put you at a disadvantage coming back to us next year. The next bullet there, family members agree that this is a full second semester commitment to remote learning. If the remote learning option is not effective, parents may request a meeting with the building administrator to create a plan to return to in-person instruction at the end of third quarter only. As we discussed this as a subcommittee, we really looked at, how would it affect a student or a class, a teacher, their learning progress as they bounce between, if they're in person and they decide they want to go remote learning, and they decide they want to come back, and just, there's no continuity of their education there. We're going to do the best we can to align the curriculum within these programs to what we do at Norfolk Public Schools, but there's just no way we can bounce them back and forth. We all know how much moving around can hurt a student's education. Families that agree to choose remote learning, but then decide to return to in-person instruction, if for some reason they say this just isn't working out for us, they have that meeting with their administrator, they decide to come back at the end of third quarter. If they make that decision to come back, that's it. Again, we're not bouncing back to remote learning middle of fourth quarter for them. This agreement, the bottom one there, this agreement for remote learning will remain in effect for the entire second semester, no matter what color dial the district is in. We thought that was an important piece to put in there, just again, so we don't have that bouncing back. Or if for some reason the school in our color dial, our own color dial would go to red, we would do a change to how we're doing instruction, or even go to a hybrid instruction. The families that have already chosen remote learning would stay in that process. They wouldn't be part of our hybrid or alternate home method there. Anybody need to jump in, you're welcome to, at least here. But there's another big one there I'm missing. The third one from the bottom. Families agree that they are choosing to move to remote learning. Therefore, their student will not be allowed to participate or attend school-sponsored athletics or activities for the second semester. We really tossed this one around as a subcommittee. Families are choosing to go to remote learning because of their concerns about the health of their students. We really felt that if they were making that decision for their learning, that it really should not. It should close that door to coming back just to come, for track or something else. If you're that concerned, to stay home and do your learning, you should stay home and not participate in those activities. Second page lists some attendance requirements. Students are required to check in daily. If they don't check in, parents are still required to excuse their student from school just like any other school day. Students who have 5 or more undocumented absences or 5 days of inactivity where they just didn't log into their program. That would be a point where they have to have a conversation with their administrator, and they may be required to come back to in-person instruction in the building. And then just like any of our other attendance rules, we still have to obey the law that after 20 missed absences, we still have to send a letter to the county attorney. A day of not logging in would be considered a day of absence. And we do at the bottom there list what are the technology needs in order to participate in this program. These are the requirements that are necessary. And then on the next page, at the bottom there, this is kind of the contract piece that they signed. We give them the option, do they want to use a school-issued device? 312, we currently have one-to-one Chromebooks. So if they want to use one of those devices, we can hook them up with that. If they want to use their own device, that's fine as well. But then also if they have internet connectivity issues, we can also check them out at hotspot. We have those hotspots available for that process as well. Any questions about the contract?
Not a question,
Yeah.
just a comment. Really what you're doing here is setting expectations, and that's very critical. I guess I would recommend not only do you set expectations for the parents, but you need to be setting expectations for the students. So I would add to your contract, or somewhere in the training of parents, make sure that you're saying you need to read this to your student, right? You get what I'm saying? Because it's really easy for a parent to say, yeah, but if you're setting the expectation for the student, it needs to be done directly with them.
Well, to that note, the student does have to sign it. I like that.
You can sign something without even.
No, I know, but that's a good lesson to teach your kids. If you're signing your name to something, you're accountable to it. And I love the accountability piece of this. I think it's something that, to do something like this is a privilege beyond, we're trying to accommodate and work with people, and the expectations go up as you're asking for something extra. As we're looking at something extra beyond normal. And I really appreciate the accountability piece, and just the way you said that. I think it's great.
Although we haven't exactly ironed out what that would look like, but we did have a good discussion about, not only training our teachers, but training our families. And so how that actually looks when we make it happen, we're just not sure about yet, but I would agree with you.
I mean, I think that training for parents and students is going to be critical to the success of this.
Okay, we did send out a survey to our parents because we really needed to get an idea of what kind of numbers we were talking about. Because that makes all the difference in the world. It kind of leads into Tammy's question about, well, how did you come up with that decision on teachers? So we did have 2017 responses, and we had a total of yes responses by 308, and that 308 indicates individual students. So some of them are from the same household, just so you understand that number. And then we did have English-speaking responses, Spanish-speaking responses, and then we also did reach out to our homeschool families. So we had a total of 308 that indicated they were interested in, and there's the grade spans that indicated a yes, interested in those grade spans.
And a copy of the contract accompanied that survey, so
Correct.
parents knew exactly what they were signing up for.
And so this was, I guess I'm trying to get at, what was the exact question that was asked? Was it just interest? Was it, if we offered this, you would do it? I'm trying to get at how definite are these numbers?
Right, so actually, I felt like we did a fairly nice job of asking that question. Tammy's shaking her head, she probably took that survey.
I thought it was very simple and to the point, and I said, no, I'm not interested, and then I was done. But if you were interested, then you had to say more about your students and your interests. So I felt like it was very clear, because it was really, to me, one question that asked yes or no, basically. I don't know what exactly it was, that was a while ago, but.
So we did ask, well, the first initial question was, we had a paragraph summary just indicating, we're considering and we're looking into the option of remote learning for families, and if you're interested, question number one, what's your interest level of your child or children in remote learning? And it was either yes, we're interested, or no, and then you could hit submit and you were done. And then after that, though, if you hit yes, we were interested, we asked the grade level your student is in, because that made a difference to us. We needed to know what grade spans we were talking about. And then there were some self-evaluative questions like, well, actually first, a contract will be required between school and family, and is this a problem for you? Is signing the contract a problem for you? And does your child have any prior issues with attendance? And then we asked them to rate their students' ability to self-monitor and self-manage. We asked them to rate their students' time management skills. We asked them to rate their students' their level of strategies that they use for independent problem solving. And we asked, what's the likelihood that there would be someone at home to assist this child? And what's the likelihood of being able to make the connectivity with the teacher? And then we also asked, would you need a device? Would you need a hotspot? Those questions. And then at the end, it's like, knowing all of this, are you still interested? So we, it was a thought process for the folks, I feel like, answering the questions, but then in the end, it was like, okay, so are you still interested?
And there was also the question that your child would not be able to participate in activities.
Yes.
Are you still interested?
Yes, and that was a very explicit question too. I wanted to be very intentional that people were clearly understanding the expectation.
And Beth, I think before, as we were discussing this, there was the expectation it might be like a Zoom, like they would be watching their class. Do you think they realize it's a completely different setup than watching your own teacher in a Zoom setting?
Right, we articulated that it would be an online program. Yes.
Well, anytime you look at a new program, obviously you need to look at, there's going to be costs associated with this. So after the committee came to consensus and a recommendation, we thought it would be important to share what this would cost. As you can see, the program breakout up there with the Excelis and the Edgenuity, those are estimated costs based on those survey numbers. When you get down to the instructional part, based on the number of teachers that we would need to do this second semester, we feel that that would be the approximate cost with our teachers, because we do have 2 that are currently on leave that said they would be perfect for this, coming back. So we're looking at 4 additional staff members. We would hire them as a substitute teacher for the semester, so they're not necessarily under the negotiated agreement because they were temporary, and they would know that going into it. And so with that, that's how these costs would arrive, okay? Now, back in September, it seems like years ago sometimes, but in our August workshop, we talked about this year's fiscal budget, including dollars for pandemic items, not knowing what they are. A lot of that budget was put into substitutes because we thought we might have this with illnesses, some instructional items, those kinds of things. So yes, this is an item that can be handled within our fiscal budget without taking away from existing programs, any of those type of items. So now obviously we don't want to continue to have these things come up every other month, but this is something that can be handled. Now there could be some nice offsets. We don't know what the homeschool impact will be. If some homeschoolers decide to come out of homeschool, then they do technically come back on our rosters, and that does increase our enrollment numbers for the TIOSA calculation. So that could soften that number a bit based on what happens there. But that's not necessarily the reason we're doing this. But I did want to share that. So I think these are pretty accurate. As I always do, I tell you the high end, worst case scenario, and we hope for the other. So
The program costs that are listed at the top are for an entire year. So we could use this during summer school. And please say we don't need it next fall, but if we did, we would still have that under contract. In the contracts for the substitutes we would be hiring, we would write flexibly. So if we did have students come back to in-person at the quarter, then we would use them as regular substitutes in our schools.
a lot of these can also be submitted for FEMA reimbursement. I don't want to get too excited about that because when we see that reimbursement, if and when, I don't know if I'll still be here or not. But we will certainly submit it. So, because they haven't paid on Katrina yet in a lot of aspects, but certainly we will submit it. It would be in this fiscal year though.
I'm not familiar with all of the requirements for homeschoolers. can they jump in at semester? I mean, if they decide they want to come back to Norfolk Public, can they come back at a quarter?
They can come back anytime.
Anytime.
That's regarding homeschooling, but we're asking folks to come decide, make the decision at the beginning of the
I'm
semester.
talking about the homeschoolers
Okay.
that might come back.
Okay.
Is what I was asking.
One final item that's not on the slide is, the other piece is, with, we have equity, is if we have some families that have some breakfast and lunch issues, how would that work for remote learners? So this is the plan. We would do grab and go 1 day a week on Wednesdays at the preschool. 2 reasons, that's a production kitchen, preschool has staff, no students on Wednesdays, and it's the perfect parking lot of the in and out drive-through. So it would be available, we would do an RSVP format, like we do with our weekend meals currently, still no charge, both breakfast and lunch, 7 days a week if they want, and it would be Wednesday pickups.
And can I ask a question? Does this apply to students with any special education needs, or is that not an option for them? I wasn't sure if you had additional requirements.
It would be available for all students, so if they're special ed or ELL. And then Mary and her team would work on if there were additional services that were needed. Speech language, for example, would be in addition to this, probably via Zoom, that type of thing. So you can speak more to that if you want, Mary.
It'd basically be, just as Jamie Jo said, that there would be some things where you would look at it for an IEP district member if it's the right thing for that student to do. But we do have things in place should a student, like should a school close, we have e-learning in place of what that would look like, remote learning, I should say. So it would be something that we would look at. You can't deny any student access to it, it's just how we make it work for that student.
So timeline, if this remote learning option is approved tonight, we will have the contract on our website tomorrow, and it would be due back to central office by November 23rd. That would give us approximately a month to hire our staff, get them trained, and then align the Acellus and Edgenuity courses to our Norfolk Public Schools priority standards and get those courses assigned to students. Sure, there will be people that would like us to move to that right away, maybe December 1st, but we feel like it will take us all of that time in order to adequately train our people and get this process put into place. So it would not actually start for students until second semester, January 5th.
And so I know you don't have the parent-student training figured out yet, but on this tight timeline, when are you thinking that you would try to accomplish that?
Early to mid-December, I'm guessing. I mean, we have a lot to do.
Yes.
We really do have a lot to do.
It's a trickle effect. Like, we need to get ourselves trained on exactly how that program is put together and then design what it needs to look like for training for, because I don't think the programs have that. It would be great if they did, but that is one thing that I don't know if they have that. And we also have some kind of some safeguards we need to put together as well as, okay, when you have this problem, who do you call? Like how do you contact, how do you solve certain problems? We need to get that list done as well.
You have mentioned scheduled meetings with teachers. How often do you, in your idea, do you think that this would happen?
I think it's probably flexible, dependent upon how well that student is doing. And so it really comes down to teacher monitoring. I could be wrong, but I would anticipate there may need to be more frequent interactions with younger students, whereas older students that are maybe more capable of moving themselves forward. But, you asked me that in February, you might have a different answer.
Sure.
With the current difficulty getting substitute teachers and substitute pairs,
you're willing to hire 4 additional staff members. Do you envision that being a problem?
Well,
Or is it going to create another problem with our ability just to hire subs regularly?
well, I can't say that hiring subs isn't a problem, because it is. We do have 10 student teachers right now that will graduate in December. So we are hoping that we could hire 4 of those to do the remote learning, and maybe all 6 of the others will substitute for us, so that we would still, no, because 2 of them were hiring, so that would leave 4, that there'd be 4 more available second semester than there are now.
So do you envision, would there be anything with, if there were a senior in class rank? Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Wilson?
We have looked at that a little bit, went through the list of people that have signed up, have interest in this program. The hard thing for them is the courses that we would be offering in this program would be similar curriculum to what we want to teach in our classrooms. We wouldn't be able to offer any of those weighted courses. So if you're looking at, GPA, if you're looking at class rank, you're a contender in those areas, that'd be something you really want to think about. And that's going to be a tough decision for families, but those upper level courses to do at home on your own, remote learning, it's just going to be not a possibility for us.
The 2 programs you selected both indicate one of the cons is that it makes it difficult for those students who have low motivation. And those are the students I guess I'm most concerned about. I don't know with your survey, I'm guessing that even if you had a parent that said, my kid's not good at self-monitoring, you're not going to keep them from doing this, right? So I think we need to make sure that we're doing everything possible to find ways to help those particular students. And just because you have a program that does check whether something's right or wrong doesn't mean you're going to have motivation. So I think that's where teacher contact becomes really important as well. I guess as I sit here, it would make sense in the training of students to provide some training on self-regulation. Very simply, planning, monitoring, and evaluating your own learning. Right? All these programs we're doing because we need to have a way, an alternate way for students to learn. But I listen to, some are reading intensive. I want kids to do some reading. Right, there's a disadvantage if all they do is watch videos. They're not focusing on improving their reading skills. There's a disadvantage if students have the notes provided to them. There's value in students having to take notes, right? But you're not going to find the perfect program. And I think you're doing a good job of coming up with alternatives for the situation that we're in. But I guess I'm just saying those are things I think to really be aware of. And recognize if you have students who go through a semester without having to do any reading, that may show up in the next year when they come back to school.
I don't think that there would be a situation where there is no reading. There's reading still in there, even in the English classes, the reading classes, different things like that, and passages to read. Jen, you want to?
I know in the Ingenuity program, the teachers have the option of how they want to set things up as well. So even when they're taking an assessment, let's say they miss a problem, they can give them kind of a, not necessarily a hint, but they don't have to either. But I know the one class that I watched was British history, I think, and it went through and a student missed a problem on purpose just to kind of show, and it told them go back and look at the context clues within the question regarding the specific area. And so it did do some options of reading and going back and rereading and doing a little bit of helping how to take a test.
go back and reread this area. Now, that was an option the teacher put on the test. It wasn't something they had to do. It was something that they could do.
And I was going to add too, we purchased a survey program that would allow us stronger analytics. So Beth will sort that, and each principal will get the results so that they will see this kid had low motivation, or they marked, whatever, any of those things. And then they can have a conversation with the parent and say, I see this could be a real struggle. I just want to make sure that you're committed to doing this. You think it'll be successful. And then the other piece is that's where, if they're not engaged, they're not doing well, we call them in, have a meeting and say, you really have to come back to school. We're not going to let a kid struggle for weeks on end and not get an appropriate education. But I guess, the last thing I want to say is we know this isn't as good as in-person instruction. It just isn't. There is no option that is that good. So we're just trying to do the best we can for those families that are truly scared to send their children to school.
What will be the grading system for these alternative learning, if they're going to be graded, and compared to
Right.
our exercises we've been through?
Yeah. So you set up the parameters in there for their grading system, and we have to get trained in that yet, but they did show us where, when you set up your program and you set up your courses, like if you say, like our grading system, 70% or whatever, then it matches that in what we put in our Norfolk grading system. Does that make sense? And
it's traditional.
You set the parameters, yes, it's very traditional.
I'm very impressed with all the work you've done, because we keep throwing these questions at you and you have the answers. The fact that you can pivot, because we just keep changing things, and I thank you all for all of your work. It's outstanding. I would love for Norfolk to be the leader that shows success, that we can get commitment from our teachers, or commitment not from our teachers, I know our teachers are committed, from our parents, and that the students are engaged, and hopefully this will be successful. But I know that it's going to be a challenge, it's going to be hard, and I thank you though for finding a way to get this to work out.
I had a question. I know let's just say at the high school, you can do reassessments. Is that an option through the online programming or not?
I really believe that is absolutely true. And I think you can put a limit on how many times they can keep retrying, and then they could be prompted to visit with the teacher before doing any more additional trying on that item.
And I assume those assessments are just self-monitored on their own in their home? There's no way to...
Correct.
Not that I assume someone would do anything untoward, but...
Correct.
On your honor. Okay.
They did have lockdown screens. Some of them had lockdown screens, so
you
couldn't
be looking at
Google. Yeah. Okay, you were on that device at least. Okay.
I think you guys built a really good plan you got a great outline for a plan, a great plan, and understanding that getting it right is more important than getting it right now. And I know in the community, there's a lot of want to get this right now. There's a lot of fear in our community, and there's a lot of things going on. But I commend you guys for taking the time and making sure we do it right, so we deliver quality content. Because this pandemic will end, and the students that are taking this option will need to be reintegrated back into schools. And we need them at or above the content level of what everyone else is doing. We need them to progress. And I think this accountability, it's scary because it's different. And we're looking at what's going to be the problems with it. But there will also be some kids that learn responsibility and time management. And we have opportunities here to teach these kids more skills, the 21st century skills that we've talked about, college and career readiness. And I think we need to take that opportunity, and we need to look at how does this work. We'll be bringing in looks like some new teachers to be a part of delivering content in a way that we've never delivered content before. And how does that work? And then how do we use what we learn going forward beyond 2021 and beyond the pandemic? And how do we continue to provide the best education possible to all of our students? And I commend you guys for the start, for where we're at, and for being ready to take it forward.
Any other questions, or are we ready to move on to the next agenda item?
Okay, thank you very much. Our next agenda item is information and discussion items. We'll start with finance and facilities report. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Total amount of claims to be approved in the consent agenda for the month of November by specific fund are listed below. All these claims were reviewed earlier today by our Finance and Facility Committee. The 1920 audit and disclosures that were board approved all have been submitted to the state and Department of Education. We are now beginning the process of the end of the year tax documents for our employees and first quarter submissions on district grants. So the fiscal year moves along. Are there any questions? Oh, and over the weekend, we were approved for our full reimbursement on the CARES dollars that we were allocated, so that's good news.
Very good news. Is the check in the mail?
It looked like it was pending deposit. It's electronic.
There you
So
go. Hey.
believe me, I will check that in the morning.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Teaching and learning report, Mrs. Nelson.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, the last month has consisted of studying regarding remote learning. Surprise, surprise. A highlight is on Monday, October 26th, we held professional development. The results from a teacher survey indicated that teachers were interested and needing support regarding social emotional health for their students and themselves. Specialists shared insights to teachers that would benefit both adults and students. There was a healthy reminder to give yourself grace. Other topics covered included understanding a growth mindset, using map data to make instructional decisions, designing assessments for remote learners, updates on statewide assessment, Go Guardian training, using proficiency skills with formative assessments, behavior management, creating differentiated learning experiences for students, and interpreting ACT data. The afternoon was planning and work time in their classrooms. A consensus has been made from our K-2 teachers that have piloted the Twig Science program. They would like us to purchase that program. The curriculum committee has been informed throughout our pilot process, and that proposal is in draft form yet. Just seeking if your approval to select bids from that tonight. And then a couple of senior high courses have been submitted to the curriculum committee, in which we will review and possibly consider at the next board meeting. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Beth. Student programs report, Mrs. Lord.
Thank you, Madam President. Our ELL staff at a staff professional development day will be held on November 18th during PLC for our ELL staff. We will Zoom with a vendor that we use to support our students new to school in grades K through 6. ELL numbers for the district as of October 1st is 203 at 4.6% of the student total population. Special education as a district, we met to our target improvement plan goal this year, which was good. As you may remember, we switched the measurement from student growth from fall to fall through MAPS vocabulary. So with the pandemic, we were still able to match our goal and growth. Special education numbers for the district as October 1st is 681 students enrolled at 15.3% of the student total population. Nurses, we've offered CPR classes on November 2nd and November 3rd, and Angie worked super hard to make sure that we could get our teachers there with subs, as for the required staff in our districts that we have to have in CPR. And the Okra and Logan Valley Public Health Department provided 157 flu shots for our district staff. This year, that's up 43 from last year. And then, just to build off what Beth said, our mental health providers that collaborate with us through the community were part of our professional development. Their sessions were directed at our staff. Are there any questions?
Mary, I don't have, right on the top of my head, what the percentages were from last year for ELL.
We're the same.
Same? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Student Services Report, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Madam President. We have received the results of our yearly external safety audit conducted by Lang Safety Consulting. I'm currently meeting with individual building principals to discuss the recommendations, and we'll share those recommendations with the board at our next meeting. We also just completed our fall parent-teacher conferences. Obviously, it was a unique year for parent-teacher conferences, as COVID concerns did not allow us to hold in-person conferences. Instead, classroom teachers provided short videos that introduced themselves and explained what our students were learning in their classes. These videos were posted for parents to watch. Families that were then able to meet through Zoom or phone calls with teachers to get more specific information regarding their students' performance in classes. Attendance numbers are posted below. As a district last year, we were at 73.2% attendance. This year, we were at 65.7%. A noticeable drop, obviously due to COVID and the restructured format, but the teacher videos were designed to give parents what they needed, and many only scheduled Zoom meetings if they had specific questions to ask. And I'll answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Eric. Human Resources and Accreditation Report, Mrs. Baumann.
Thank you, Madam President. I was waiting to make sure it came up so I knew what I was saying. As no surprise, I have an update on substitutes. The district has continued to have a high need for substitute teachers and paras. Most days, we're unable to fill all teacher and para absences. The central office certified staff members have stepped in to sub in several instances, along with teachers covering during their plan time. I appreciate all of their help and willingness to jump into those situations. I held interviews on Friday, November 6th, to fill the full-time paraprofessional position advertised, and I do have one person hired for that. I'm still hoping to hire additional staff in that position. I also anticipate hiring additional full-time teacher substitutes in the near future as well. A proposal for temporary COVID bonuses for substitutes will be addressed later in the meeting as an action item. And then I have listed our current job postings. We are very close to having our certified positions that we had to fill that semester filled, so that's great. Any questions?
Not a question, Angie, just a comment. You know, it's in difficult times that I think character reveals itself. And the character of Norfolk Public has really been revealed with the way that people have stepped up and stepped in to make sure that as much as possible, students have a teacher, someone from the district in the classroom helping them learn. So thank you all for that.
Yes, I agree, Patty.
Thank you, Angie. Superintendent's report, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. I have purposely kept my report brief this evening. I would like to start by congratulating Sandy Wolf, Jenna Hatfield, and Brenda Carhart on their election to the Norfolk Public Schools Board of Education. And I would like to congratulate Dr. Patty Googles on her election to the State Board of Education. Although we have mixed feelings about that I'm sure we'll express later. The Central Office Leadership Team will meet with Jenna Hatfield and Brenda Carhart to discuss topics such as board members' roles and responsibilities, board procedures, Norfolk Public Schools strategic plan and comprehensive facilities plan, school safety plans, budgeting, personnel issues, target-based grading, curriculum processes, professional learning communities and communication, and all the other things that we need to go over. So we'll need to schedule a time, Jen. Our new board members will be sworn in on January 11th. Retiring board members will be recognized on December 14th. However, I do want you to note that we need our retiring board members to attend the meeting in January so that we have a quorum to open that meeting. You can leave as soon as we install the new ones if you want, but please come so we can open the meeting. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. We are to committee reports now. We're going to start with Facilities and Finance Committee report. Barney Robinson.
All right, we met at noon today, went through claims, activity claims, standard business. We had 2 presentations during the meeting. The first one was Angie Bauman presented to us on some work she's doing with making sure we get all of our classes covered, what she's working on substitutes. Really comprehensive plan, working hard at it. Sitting here listening to all the staff reports today, I'm amazed you guys have time to actually run your departments with running the actual regular school year in addition to everything that's going on this year. So huge compliments on that. But we'll talk on some of the staffing options as we get into it a little bit. Then we had Agri-City Insurance came in, RJ Gall and Kendra Buss. They presented on our insurance renewal. Again, a very, I think we'll have it as an action item. Do we have an action item on that tonight, or just really good insurance renewal, did well with it. They're out there as a real good advocate for us, and when we've needed our insurance, it's been there, so it's been really good. Other things we touched on were facility project updates. Everything's still moving forward. Had a little discussion about our negotiations and where we're at with all of our employee groups. Again, staffing options with remote learning, we saw a little on that here already. And then the RFP process for food management vendors coming around again. Next meeting is December 14th at noon. Any questions?
Thank you, Arnie. Policy Committee report. Dr. Googles.
Thank you, President Love. Policy Committee met on October 22nd to discuss and recommend some revisions to the continuing instruction policies that are part of our annual review. Those particular policies are 6283 through 6920. And then we also reviewed some miscellaneous policies that some of them are recommended new policies, some are revisions to existing policies that are related to legislation that was passed this last session. So let's start with 6283 through 6920. A minor non-substantive change is being recommended to policy 6283 on concussions. Policy 6300, selection and review of instructional and media materials. We're recommending a couple of changes to that policy. The first one is, in addition to delegating the selection of instructional materials to the superintendent, we are also suggesting that that could be a superintendent's designee. We also are suggesting that we include that when instructional materials are being selected, that they be aligned as much as possible with our state standards. And also that instructional materials should stimulate growth in, the policy currently says, factual knowledge, practical skills, literacy appreciation, and aesthetic values and ethical standards. We're recommending the inclusion of concepts because concepts is one of the, along with procedures and skills and facts, important aspects of learning. So we want to make sure that that's included. Miscellaneous policy revisions, again, these are occurring because of legislative changes, laws that were passed. Policy 4025, professional boundaries between employees and students. Several additions are being recommended to our existing policy. The first one, and this is probably the most highlighted one from the legislation, and that is staff may not have a relationship with a student within 1 year of that student graduating or otherwise leaving the district. Second, grooming behaviors are unacceptable. Third, staff may face discipline for a violation of this policy, including termination, the loss of credentials, referral to DHHS, and law enforcement. Policy 4270, this is staff payment during closure. This is a recommended new policy that we need to have so that our staff can be paid during a pandemic or any other extraordinary circumstances. So that's why we are recommending this policy. We have to have it in order to get that check that Bill was talking about. In other words, our CARES fund. Policy 5008, this is an attendance policy and excessive absenteeism. We're recommending modification to include mental health as a basis for student absences. We are recommending a couple of other really non-substantive changes to that policy, just some wording changes to kind of clear and clean it up. Policy 8342, designated method of giving notice of meetings. State law now requires that the board has to give notice of board meetings in a local newspaper and on the newspaper's website if that option is available. And finally, policy 4031, injury leave. This is a new policy that will provide up to 7 days of paid injury leave for an employee who is intentionally or recklessly hurt while at work. Before this law passed, workman's compensation does not take or did not take effect until I think the 8th day. And so they passed a law so that in those special circumstances where someone is willfully injured, that employee is paid immediately. No additional changes have been made to policy 6000 through 6282. We will be asking for approval of those policies on second reading this evening.
Having served on the policy committee for 8 years, we are really going to miss Dr. Patty Googles because I have never seen anybody get so excited about policy. She has never missed a meeting. She has never missed a word. She is absolutely amazing. And Jenna, you have big shoes to fill because you get this one.
Because I'm not doing that.
We're going to miss Bob too because he had a lot of history there with policy. So it's going to be huge shoes to fill. Thank you, Dr. Googles.
Thank you.
Government Relations, Tammy Day.
Thank you. The Government Relations Committee met on November 3rd and discussed several anticipated hot topics for the 2020 legislative session, which is right around the corner, whether you want to believe that or not, including property tax, again, school funding again, these all come up the same. I feel like we just say these over and over. School choice, option enrollment, and possibly the Open Meetings Act. We also discussed our disappointment regarding the hearing that was recently held by Senator Groney. LB 402 was presented, or LR, sorry, 402 was presented as a hearing to examine the impact of COVID-19 on the education of children in Nebraska. But it actually ended up being a rally for school choice. And we believe that this is an unfortunate, inappropriate, and deceptive use of the hearing process. So that was disappointing. We have reached out to Senator Flood to schedule a meeting, which will happen next week, I think. I don't know, it's coming up soon. To just get to know him better as our new senator and to give him more information about our school district, hoping to start off on the right foot. And we're excited to have a senator that lives in the Norfolk community, and we hope he's a strong advocate for our school and our community. So that's what we've been up to.
Thank you, Tammy. Curriculum Committee. Is your pen?
It is.
Dr. Googles.
Thank you, President Wolf. The Committee on Curriculum met at 4:20 on October 12, 2020. First, the committee heard a report on the implementation of Elevate, which is the 3rd through 8th grade science program that has been put in place. Teachers who are using that program noted that there certainly is increased rigor. That's probably partly a function of the program and also a function of standards, increasing rigor in the standards themselves. They also said that they really like the hands-on learning, which helps students to attain concepts, and they like that students write responses in their books. So the books that students have actually are I call them kind of like workbooks, in that students, as they are in the lessons, they can write and do write things in the book. Teacher feedback on the K-12 pilot of the TWIG science K2, I said K-12, sorry. K2 pilot of the TWIG science program, which will be completed or has been completed by now, but as of our meeting, it was going to be completed soon. That feedback has also been very positive. The teachers in the pilot said they like the hands-on learning. They really appreciate the appropriate developmental level of the materials and the crosswalk with wonders. They saw all of those as strengths. That's really exciting to have that kind of crosswalk with wonders because it helps kids so much to see relationships between what they're learning about in reading and what they're learning about in science. So that was really fun to hear that that exists. Next, the senior high is currently reviewing possible new instructional materials, and by that I mean updated texts and the technology resources for biology, chemistry, anatomy, and physiology. The social studies implementation timeline was reviewed. Progress on the development of targets and proficiency scales is varying depending upon the particular grade level and course, as you might expect. These changes are being made, again, because there are new social studies standards, and so we needed to make sure that we have instruction and courses that are going to meet those standards. The progress in particular is being made with the world history course. But due to staffing constraints, and by that I mean the issue with lack of subs, teachers being quarantined, teachers just don't have ample time to do the amount of work as they need to be doing in order for this to progress with the original timeline. But the current goal is for American Studies 1 to be required for 8th graders as of the fall of 2021. And American Studies really is a course that will replace American History 1 that will now be part of the curriculum in 8th grade. And then World History will be required for freshmen. It will be offered, we hope, in the summer of 2022 and then beyond. And so obviously with those changes in courses, there will be some changes in graduation requirements. Those will be addressed in the handbook that is printed for whenever those courses will be implemented. A vertical writing committee that includes teachers at all levels has written their mission and vision statements in order to direct the work that they're doing on standards alignment, assessment, and redevelopment of other writing instructional topics. And Achieving the Core is being used as a guide for developing standards-aligned instruction. Target-based learning implementation chart. This was really a meeting. We got through a lot in a relatively short time. We covered a lot of ground. The target-based learning implementation chart was also reviewed. Some of the implementation of target-based grading may be delayed, again, due to the current COVID situation with teachers and time constraints. Decisions about grading changes on report cards will be made by January and shared with the target-based grading committee and with parents. So more to come on that. A number of items were discussed related to statewide assessment and accountability. NDE has indicated that our school's AQuest classification will remain the same as last year because obviously testing did not occur last spring. NDE is also working with NWEA to develop a test that would replace NSCAS and MAPS. So they're really trying to come up with one test to cover both what MAPS and NSCAS covers now. And really they're moving to a philosophy of through school testing. The idea is if you're going to test students, you need to test them and get results to people so those results can be used to improve instruction and learning. So I think all of us really appreciate that step. That's really an important step. And also this is being done to reduce some of the testing fatigue that I think afflicts teachers and students in classrooms now. That's really in a pilot phase, so there's a lot of work to be done with that. Spring testing, right now I think still, as of our meeting time anyway, spring testing was still going to proceed as scheduled, even if there are interruptions in attendance. Who knows, right? I mean, as time goes on and as COVID keeps changing, that may change, but that's the plan at this point. And finally, we talked about cognitive coaching, which has been implemented by our teaching, learning staff. And it's been implemented at all instructional levels. At the elementary level, the coaches are going into buildings and working with individual teachers. I guess I should say that cognitive coaching really is, it's a process that helps teachers become more reflective about their own teaching. And it includes the elements of pre-planning. So the coach and the teacher do some planning together, then the coach observes the teacher in the teaching process, and then the two of them go through a guided reflection process. So it's happening at the elementary level, at the middle school level, at the senior high, rather than it being implemented in all of the areas. It's being implemented with our beginning teachers. So it really, to me, feels like it's an additional way of mentoring, really important step in mentoring our beginning teachers. And lastly, the broad topics and general format for the October 26th Professional Development Day were presented. And Beth in her report talked about what that turned out to be. So that's that report.
And as you can tell, Patty's very passionate about curriculum. Thank you, Patty. Are you doing the American Civics report?
Do you not want me to?
No, you go for it.
Okay, this is the Committee on American Civics report. That committee met at 4 p.m. on October 12, 2020. This was one of the 2 required public meetings for that committee. There was no public comment shared at the committee meeting. New committee members, Stephanie Chandler and Jared Oswald, were introduced. The American Civics Project, which was completed by students in government class, was discussed. That project, as you may recall, came into being because the year before last, the legislature passed or updated the American Civics Law, and there has to be in schools some assessment to show that students are learning civics. And the option that we chose was the option to have students do a project or presentation in government class. The committee requested that from here on, that there really be a summary, you know, what did we learn? What did students learn from doing this particular presentation or project? The K-12 Social Studies Crosswalk document, which compares prior standards with the 2019 standards, was described. Obviously, that crosswalk is really important because it shows where gaps are between the standards we had and the new standards. It also, I think, has revealed an increased rigor in the social studies standards. So it really is a valuable resource for those teachers who teach social studies. And it also includes numerous instructional resources to help teachers help students meet those standards. Social studies curriculum work is continuing. This was the same thing that was discussed during our committee on curriculum, that work is being impacted due to COVID-19. And the next committee meeting will be held sometime in January.
Thank you, Patty. Minutes of committee meetings. The minutes from the November 3rd, 2020 nurses and student health meetings are attached. At this point, we need to go into executive session to discuss negotiations as needed to protect the interest of the district. Is there a motion?
I'll move we move into executive session to discuss negotiations as needed to protect the interests of the district.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Arnie and a second by Tammy. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary.
Obviously, we do anticipate some action items after this executive session, so please hang around.
For following you. Yeah, if you could go, congratulations.
I mean, as with any new, kind of
You're ditching.
I'm ditching it. You understand that. Things that we are.
It's just so fun being on this, you just Friday, you don't understand what all has to happen to like make the day happen for us. Yes. So now I'm seeing on the other side. Yes, me too. Yeah. And every year.
That's a big deal. Talk about curriculum. Swap on American history. That's really,
Yeah.
American history, American history too. There's some big things going on.
Yeah.
And it takes planning too, because you can't just, like, there's not that one here. I mean,
Right.
graduation, I mean, it affects so many things. The handbook and the graduation and the schedule and who's taking it over the summer, because a lot of kids take it over the summer because
Yeah.
they want to be in music.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah, that's gonna be a kicker on that one. Being ready for summer.
Yeah, and it's not just 1 year that it'll affect because the class that would normally have taken it coming into the ninth grade year or whatever, then is going to be taking it to eighth, and then, yeah, that is, yeah.
it's a phase in. You have an opportunity. You'll have plenty of opportunities coming.
Yeah, for sure, yeah, you too. There we go. Run over, but you have to say what you.
Only in small.
Cover in small sport.
And then the next day, I'm coming.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Having more job, but.
But,
Dr. Thompson, you need anything?
Okay, fine, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
because somebody in the junior high.
See ya.
Hey, Eric, am I going to go back for a second? Is that-
Well, I'll be here.
Yeah,
I'm going to go back to the
you know,
second.
It's my favorite Monday night spot.
I've got my poor kids.
We'll be the second. We'll go back to
Whatever. All right, we'll see you guys. See ya.
Thank you.
See ya, thank you.
I don't know how long that'll take, second one, otherwise I'll be.
That's fine, I get it. Mary. I already got my attendance done for tomorrow, so I'm good.
You know what, we could put up those white tables now.
Yeah, true, then everybody's gone, just gonna do that.
Do what?
Set
The
those
white tables up?
quick.
Oh.
Have fun yet?
That's always my Monday night routine. I know it.
I was going to ask you, Dr. Thompson asked me to respond to that email. Was there a bad experience or something like, because it's not intended that way at all.
I
So I
think
just kind
it's-
of need to make sure that
I guess I'm feeling
understand.
it's all the stress part of it. Sorry, like I said.
Okay.
I'd help you, but they're heavy.
No, let me get it, Mary. It's fun.
Chocolate from my office. Why are you getting on the table? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
That was told.
Do you want some help? I'll find someone.
Love it.
Okay, ready? You're a toad too? Sorry for your mom.
Doesn't when we go to the next executive session, he wanted me to set this room up for tomorrow's BLT. I could do it tomorrow morning too. I got that. So I figured I'll just do it that quick and
and then I can go home.
I like home. Oh, wait, I need to grab it. There's one of these out in the hall out there, is it broken? Do you see it?
Oh, really? Is this how we want to set it up for DLP?
We open it up and put it there.
Do we?
It used to be a big horseshoe,
I know that.
but you're right, I think they all face it, I think we do it. Where's that one on there?
Nah, she's over there. I didn't even know you started.
You never get invited to the parties.
That's okay. Probably goes to the next one, won't you?
Yes. Would it be funny if we packed everything up and he came back here?
Name tags
No
are
microphone.
gone.
You don't need a microphone if you're not talking anymore tonight. You want water on your phone?
Went through there for a while.
Are you good or you want some more water?
I'm good, thank you.
We should do laps or something. That work.
We just,
Take the table left.
like I said, we did tables.
I was sitting here thinking. Probably a change. And hard not to be able to think.
I know.
And that one. And that one.
Have a lot of cleaning to do.
Yes. Yeah.
Clarification.
Yep.
Less than half an hour.
Half an hour left? No, when they, once they get back? Or half an hour later?
Oh, I don't think they are eating. They have sandwiches in there. Well, when you go in there at the end, there's their figure, so.
Okay, run it again?
It's not what Bill just told you.
It's at the end, it's at 50.
Oh, maybe.
Thanks.
Because they have another one, another executive session at the end of all the action. staff.
It would be all right. Can we just work out the arrangements? Oh, there's a table. Can I put my stuff on it?
You're welcome to help yourself.
Oh.
Try to help out.
Well, normal school board meetings, I sit with the media because there's not usually people here.
Oh.
And they just said, you can sit by me because nobody else is here. So COVID times have been different.
Interesting, yeah.
She's out for
I don't know where she at. Where's
I
she
just-
at?
Help yourself.
quarantine.
Oh, is she really?
She's live tweeting.
Oh, is she?
I brought
Oh, so she's on the screen then.
for snacks.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I checked Twitter and I was like, oh,
oh yeah.
okay.
Interesting.
It's gonna be long. I have to curb the.
Thank you.
Oh, somebody brought me a water. That was awesome. Very good app.
Well, that's, I think you're concerned about number of teachers. The advantage is, get those applications in this month. Gives us an opportunity to evaluate how many staff we need. Cameras go off. Is it? The cameras go off, right?
Yes, it is. But they can hear us.
You don't say anything you think is funny. That's really not.
I will, but I also can push the thingy either. She's like, how much time do you think they'll need to be scheduled for the meeting? I don't know.
Training for the parents meeting?
How many times do you think they'll need to meet, like, with the student?
Oh.
Well,
But we already know from that manifest right now, we have kids that blast through stuff that don't need a teacher at all, and then you got another teacher that needs, another kid that you gotta sit there and hold your hand through it. So, you know, and on some of that, the parents are gonna have to help out on that, but, the seminary, there's some motivated kid, can they do this, if they can? Somebody's got to help them hold their hand, we're not gonna be able to do that for them.
I guess we were talking that formal training, like, could be a videos or something, but I don't know, do they need to touch base? And if I have a kid in 3 different buildings, do I gotta touch base with all, you know, how do you plan that?
I think you provided a video tutorial. And give the parents a chance to maybe meet with the teacher or meet with the teacher and, okay, do we need to have a meeting before we start this? Do you have any questions before you log in? Because we have to get in there, log in information. We're talking about putting this on the website. Like, when you click on cells, it takes you to a page that shows you, here's how you log in. And then we've already emailed the login information. I think that is, some of that stuff we can take care of, question answer stuff on the website, and then anybody else that's struggling with how to teach about that.
I did not, you were so kind and brought me water, but I did not bring you crackers. Do you want me to go get them?
No.
Sure.
You sure?
Yeah, but I'm good. I took a piece of chocolate out of your office, so yeah, I'm good.
What else did you do in my office?
I just took one of Stephanie's Mr. Goodbars.
No, I porch poles from an old house we tore off a long time ago, and Corey and I used them to make the hanger for making Megan's backdrop for the water. And, somebody came to replace them, so.
Time to get one of those cheap home security cameras.
Wow, I said to him, I said, good God, you have a lot of tools out there. And he goes, I don't think anything's missing except for the trees. So somebody knows exactly, somebody that knows is after them, makes me mad.
You sure they got home from you?
Yes. Yes, because they're heavy and bulky and they put them away. And they're both kind of
I
compliant.
might have two, you want them? I might have two, you want them?
No.
She wants her staff?
No, we were good, I mean, Megan put them on the website, she's
So
so
maybe Eric.
I took mine off the Settles' front porch. He redid the front porch, I had really nice one, took two of them, I cut them in half, I made table legs before I got to the table made.
Okay, do you have any add or ask for them?
Yeah, and then I'll go to my office and get my actual glasses cleaning. I mean, clean my glasses. Do you want a leave or every program?
I need program, please.
I don't know. Oh,
Thank you though, buddy. Leave isn't what I need. Just know what a big reach here. Like, I think I just need to kill that one really quick.
did it start when you found out there's two executive sessions?
I think it was when you called me and said, Mary, I really looked at the agenda. I don't know what it's gonna be. And when it started. Overnight.
Oh, I hope the road not bad for you.
I know, they said we're in a winter weather advisory.
Really?
Yeah, 3 5 inches of snow.
We got it back here, my ex-brother, he said, still gonna miss us. Said he'd watch the weather. Brian Bruchet.
I did not know who that was your sister married to, your sister-in-law. Right, sister-in-law?
Yeah, my sister, yeah, the twin.
Yeah. Huh.
Yep.
What was he doing?
What?
What was he doing?
Probably see what the middle learning is gonna be.
Do they have kids?
Huh?
Do they have kids here?
Yeah. Reckon is, 8th grade this year.
Still have 5 people watching.
Yeah.
I think I found one.
Did you see what happened? Do you know who they are?
No.
I watched that one time. I'm curious as to why we have two separate ones. I guess I don't have to understand how they come out to vote. See, that would be why I don't know.
Isn't the last one about your new position you're in?
Oh, no, they have to vote in that color. Yeah, I don't know that.
Is the conversation in any executive session?
No. That would be silly. She would have given me a heads up for that.
What does the executive session say?
Staffing.
Stephanie?
Yours is on there before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was starting to think.
I was like, what the heck would that be?
All right, winter weather advisory.
Yeah, no, the second one isn't real. That's only a biggie.
Freezing rain, sleet, and snow are expected from miles into new traveling trenches or trenches overnight on Tuesday and into Tuesday morning. Rain will give way to freezing rain as temperatures fall below freezing Tuesday into Tuesday morning.
Okay, they don't have to be very far behind that, so sun will come up, melt it.
Snow is expected to develop Tuesday morning, north and west, and freezing rain, north and.
I'm not driving on Mars.
Snow is expected to develop Tuesday morning to the north and west, freezing rain and sleet.
Would you look tired here?
I'm so just.
Because you think it's too dark, or?
Just a little bit.
We're gonna get some safe schools reports tomorrow.
Yes, you are.
Ice accumulations up to a quarter inch are possible.
That's a lot.
That is what is. There's still considerable uncertainty in where exactly the mean freezing may occur. Snowfall amounts up to 5 inches if possible. Highest total will be limited to the far northeast of Nebraska. We're not far northeast, we're mid-northeast.
Okay, good.
Reduced
Those
visibility.
little schools that Jake talks to, it's always funny, they did, that last snow day we had, or the snow we had, he said, oh my God, we went to the couch and he's like, oh my gosh, some of these guys are calling late starts already, I gotta get up and look at this weather. And I was like, they are?
He said, here, you better.
Yeah, I was like, he's probably at the board meeting tonight, but I think I'm just gonna call school tomorrow, so you guys know.
Well, it, snow won't count as instructional this year.
Yeah. Here's your time, winter precipitation is expected to start near midnight. So you guys have a chance to beat it. Not much, not much.
Might as well just check in the hotel set.
Primary impacts are expected to last from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. That will be done before 4 a.m.
Well, yes, but 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. is a school call.
Yeah.
And you do know, you're the other person that does that.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep. You, Bill, Jim, Bill, you.
Yeah, it's Jane, Joe, and Bill, and if one of them is not, then you, but since they're both here, come out.
This time, buddy, this time.
This time.
You do the back there?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I'm picking up anyway there.
Well, I just want to get a photo.
Just throw some other, Eric, you throw trash away, here's some more.
Thank you, kind sir.
Should have kept it. When we come out, all full from their sandwiches, we go, the crackers, we had.
They have sandwiches?
Yeah.
Oh, Dom is in trouble. The girl on the block got a new sandwich. Jeez.
That's it. That is it.
You see the new kids did good on Friday? The Beatles.
The what?
The new kids beat us Friday. Both of them did.
Did
Oh, beat us, beat you out of here.
Yeah.
I beat you home early.
I meant you're on there, it's already been 20 minutes.
As I said,
What do you call it?
I was going with an over-under of 32, and we just hit 33, so missed.
Well, they have to eat.
I know, that was taking long. Yeah, talk and eat at the same time.
Mary, you didn't get us sandwiches? You usually take such good care of us, even for yourself.
I'm guessing there'll be 1 or 2 or 3 left.
Should be 4, if you look around the road.
We are in the 2 to 4 inch range.
It's,
for snowfall.
I had crackers on, okay.
This is as of 5 o'clock tonight. This is,
What do you want?
because I am third in command of the snow day alerts. I get the snow day updates now.
From what?
From what? Like,
National Weather Service emails.
really?
Well, I'm sure if I went on the National Weather Service.
I'm gonna be like 6 weeks command on that, just so that I can get the updates, but I don't wanna know
I'll
about
let her
it.
know that you want to be a part of this and that you can be number 3.
I can't call it for Battle Creek. I can't get there, so I'm gonna go ahead and say no.
No, like, I'm like, let me look outside. Nope,
Nope.
we're done. Call
NWS, National Weather Service, Omaha Valley. Alert since. It is. It's quite a large document, lots of information.
it. I don't think.
Hey, since we're sitting here doing nothing, remote learning contract.
What about it?
So I'm gonna take. They haven't passed this yet, have
No, you can't change anything.
they? Can I take the draft out there?
Yeah.
And then, Patty wanted, set expectations for students, so, in the agreement part, we got all the agreements listed. Okay, just put it like where it says agreements, and just put like, parents, please
Oh, yeah.
review this with your student.
Not please. It is expected that the parents and student will review
Parents
this together.
review the who. It is expected. Parent.
Sirens are
There were a lot
going
of
crazy in
It
this
was
town.
raining and there was a
Yeah,
fire.
it's similar. It's similar.
No, it said, if you read it, the person walked into the side of the semi.
What?
Yeah, they said that there may have been brightness paper.
Yeah, he was drunk.
Yeah, I was like, he may have been
So it
intoxicated.
wasn't a moving semi?
Yeah, it was moving.
Oh,
Yeah,
So was he.
yeah, so was he. Walked right into the side of it
well, it was moving.
while it was
Like
moving.
the trailer or the?
Yeah, outside.
You know, I wonder, did the truck driver even know? Because it's such a big vehicle, would you even know?
If you walk into the side of a semi, if you're in front of the tires, that means you're going under the tires.
He probably seen the guy in his mirrors and seen him on the side. 'Cause they have big enough mirrors on them, those
Probably wouldn't
semis.
go very fast, you're saying.
No,
Uh,
yeah.
Still, you think you'd say it's semi
Yeah.
while you're walking.
I don't know, maybe there was more than just, I don't know,
Maybe reason they came working when they.
Yeah.
Alright, it is expected that parent/guardian and student will review these, agree to these.
review everything. Eric, I said I was busy.
Eric, why can't you ask us questions?
Because I gotta get this to
It's a
Lorraine
kid
in the
dance.
morning so she can get it translated, so I can get it sent out by noon. That's my timeline.
Oh, by noon? Okay, I'm like, don't make me run over tonight, she just got the award next one.
She's got it all translated except for each change.
She's gonna be like, you said Roxanne on TV, Mary.
You didn't say it right.
You know you're all right, we're supposed to say muchas gracias.
This chair isn't horribly uncomfortable. I just need TV. Could you make up TV for
What
me?
is that for?
It's fine.
I don't know what it is.
Netflix maybe.
Oh my gosh. Like, according to Corey, that, like, the Steelers won last night. They're the only NFL team that is undefeated. And
I was like, I've known that one for a
Is he a
couple
big
weeks.
Steelers fan?
8-0.
Oh, he is, the whole family.
Oh,
8-0. And that's history making.
my brother-in-law's a huge Steelers fan.
Twice. Well, he is a,
I texted him, I said, are the Steelers losing to a fourth string quarterback right now? Because they were, in the fourth quarter.
Yes, they were.
It wasn't looking good.
No, we have an
You should
entire
go see their
man
family picture. The first son-in-law came in with what?
Now he's a Vikings, isn't he?
cave. The first son-in-law was a Steelers fan. The
Oh.
second one came in, he's a Vikings fan. Yeah.
That's Joe.
Soccer, European football.
Rams, who are the Rams?
LA Rams?
LA and student. Lure.
We already talked about this.
Why do you keep bringing this
Why
up?
do you keep bringing that up?
That's what I'm gonna do tomorrow morning on everything else.
You have to pay attention during BLT.
I've got
meetings.
time.
Yeah,
I
because
know.
I'm not gonna be here.
You're gonna be here for BLT?
Well, I stay home.
You're telling me I'm not gonna get anywhere.
I was like,
I was like, why are you
coming?
coming?
You usually have the largest agenda of anybody.
I know.
Quick
Well,
meeting
I am
tomorrow.
the
Mary gets
Director
back.
of
That's just
Teaching
snowed
and
out.
Learning. We do still teach and learn in this district, you know. Gosh, dang it.
Teachers we have, that is for sure. Super primary encrypted list, so that's updated for everyone.
Did it?
Shut up, was there a big change?
No, it was, actually, I talked to her and she said, that wasn't. Oh, actually, that near has the bench, which is knock on wood, it's been a pretty good day, so.
What's that? Oh,
Oh,
you're
from
just
the-
sitting where I know. I got you.
So we're sitting good there.
Yeah, look at that, that looks good.
And on that list, one kid doesn't go to our school, our home school. The other kid, the enrollment says that they moved to Mexico, but yet they're, this is quarantine in Norfolk, so now we got some work to do.
Student services, that's,
That's good, but I'm high school principals.
This is the first time I've ever had to stay for an executive session in the middle of a meeting.
I called 32, that's 42, and I just get 10 minutes off.
So now,
Mary calls for another 30 minutes.
well,
I didn't call for nothing.
me,
Oh, that very, I was like, I didn't play. Hey guys,
you know what you're doing.
special wire, my fingers are thirsty. There's like a little tea.
You know what I would
Too
do?
loyal?
Yep.
Well, we're still in here.
There we go.
No, no, you didn't. I did not have a, you didn't? Nope, not yet. Not till later.
Oh, the next executive session.
You as the new kid didn't say I was
I did not.
you in yet.
I have nothing.
Who's gonna hurt our first?
I just.
Really?
Always
We're out here hating you.
That's not nice.
We got a bang.
Positive about it.
I don't know if getting a sandwich out of the deal makes it worth it. Just kidding, it was pretty uneventful.
We
I
were
don't know
on,
now. I
we were
had
on here updating contracts and checking the weather.
And we got the flash on the guy who ran into the side of the semi while walking.
I didn't know this happened.
That this happened.
Was this around lunchtime?
10 something.
What's that? Oh,
10.
10?
This
Yeah.
morning?
Yeah.
I thought it was like last night.
No, it was this morning.
That intoxicated at 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, you must have had a good morning.
That's a different job.
I was just gonna ask how that would happen, but then you threw in the intoxicated part.
Yeah.
Well,
Can I assume we're not on live?
The camera's on. Don't hit your microphone button.
so,
If you can flip.
maybe you should go all night. And just bring
Maybe one session.
There's still 5 watching.
Go to work.
Maybe they just have it on and off.
They're just entertained by us sitting
Well,
here.
Sarah was gonna go home and watch. But she's got stuff she has to do in school.
They can't hear us, right?
That's why I was asking, I don't know.
They cannot
I
get.
don't know what you guys are all saying.
I said maybe we should just live in Florida.
Maybe. You think that started immediately?
I don't know. Do you think it did?
I don't know.
Does it all have to wait until January?
I don't know.
It's funny because one of my daughters said something about the
Why is
election.
that not
and I go,
politics?
it's not like it's gonna happen
You just gotta hope that's not the rule.
No, it's not over, we both got kicked out. Wait,
Oh, I
yeah.
can't myself. Oh. Why did you kick JJ out? I was like, I never kicked JJ out of the party.
They're talking about my
I got that part. I figured that out.
Dan's gonna add my own advice, but she's gonna know.
She's like, you come with me, little girl.
Never know what might be said.
Mary has already checked the weather, it looks like you'll be able to start school on time.
Really?
Nope, but
These are really supposed to be.
That didn't look great earlier.
According to the 5 o'clock report that she sent us.
Here it goes.
Oh, we got another one?
No, that you sent.
Oh, yeah.
I don't get them unless you score them up.
Yeah, I don't know how you get
No,
some.
are you serious?
Ben's got it.
I'm gonna slide in, I'm coming.
But Bill's really a thing.
you have to get actually signed up.
It's a big deal, I'm telling you.
Just because Jamie Cho forwards it to you does not make you a big deal.
If you do, Jake, I don't have the worst. Is my weather
As
and stuff.
much as I possibly can, to be honest.
He loves it.
Well, that time is not.
Although we're being recorded.
Come to work. Last year, 2
You
years
can't
ago?
hear us very sure, but
We had a meeting or something, and there was like a
so
big
they can't
red
read your
tent out.
lips.
No, this one.
Yes,
The
you're
school
right.
board, so that was up here.
Is it?
You're right, he is at that one.
Oh, you never said that.
He loves to watch it. He is.
You know I wouldn't use that.
All those things.
Jeez.
All those things.
Pretty
He's
snowy
disgusted.
enough, that's it, no, pretty
Keep
good.
us
Probably our conversation about the guy hitting the truck
Yeah,
is not
yeah.
important for school board. Or the part where we talked about the Steelers isn't very important.
No.
A large majority of your directors are gonna be in trouble tomorrow.
He's not putting any quotes in the paper, he's not.
Angie, that would just be me and you, I don't know.
Oh, that'd be ugly. What if I didn't get to talk about your salary
We were gonna put people's microphones away until they're talking, but we didn't think that was a good.
We haven't done any action like that yet.
You put my name on that.
That's weird, you were.
No.
No. That's probably not. That is not.
Beth and Eric are done, they took a long time. You take their mics away.
Did you have any day, did you leave your office at all today?
I came up with finance and facility at lunch.
It was.
No, I didn't get that there either. I didn't get that there either.
Was that twice, you girl?
I haven't gotten any food.
Okay, there's a wrap in there.
I kind of feel like I was
Or
working
you
on
feel like you're getting picked on?
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
I do want to leave my house, it's gonna be cold if I get there.
What'd you have? What'd you put the rock
I made all the taco stuff last night, taco meat, and everything, so it was ready.
You can warm that up.
Yeah.
Chicken board meeting, and I had board meetings, so old leftovers, whatever. You're fine.
See his board meetings.
Didn't know.
It's gonna be bedtime.
Snow's not supposed to set until 4 a.m., so.
Oh, really?
See, that's what he feels safe, the top four, you can keep that in here, but we should probably leave before then.
Well, we could probably put a couple cots over at Phillip Street and make it nice for you.
Good, that is a possibility.
Down there, one of the
Well, I don't know why you
lockers.
go to that work, aren't the wrestling mats out?
Yes, they are.
You
You
know,
want to sleep on a
We
wrestling
have a
mat?
nurse's station though, where there might be a pillow.
Actually, the pole vault pit is over there.
There used to be a really nasty couch in the staff room up here that we threw away.
Oh, wow, that was so long ago,
That
Jimmy
seems
Jo.
odd.
I don't even remember.
I do, it was nasty.
You can sleep under our table like we always go.
I feel like camping.
Yeah, we would camp under our table.
It'd be like glamping.
Glamping.
I don't want to be the first one up here tomorrow morning.
Yeah. It's gonna be cool, and you're not gonna be.
Yeah, I am.
And-
Yeah,
we're gonna work in our city.
I would say switch sweaters, but.
Yeah.
That's my word.
Well, that doesn't even help.
Well,
And Walmart's not even open.
They
24/7.
were-
We can't even go buy.
We'd be late for work if we tried to.
Seriously, that one, what did he do?
I think so earlier than that,
I know.
because I stopped there on my way to work quite a bit.
Jake wanted to go it was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and they weren't open yet, so it was open Menards, and they open at 6.
Contractor starter.
What did he make? Pork tenderloin? He did.
Stop talking about food, I'm hungry.
And I was like, well, that's probably what will happen, I should have done it, said it out loud. Good idea.
Probably not a great meeting to bring new people.
Well, I think it's an excellent meeting to work with people on.
But you need to,
Yeah.
they're still there.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. They're not ready to stay yet, so they.
Brenda had to leave to go to Music Boosters, I know that. I don't know.
We kind of cleared it out, didn't we?
We did. We got our 2 loyal people. And I know the Daily News is watching.
And they're not here by choice, they have to be here to represent.
Oh, stay on.
Where mine was not going to be.
Go look right off.
Because you didn't want to look at it. No, I need to change it, but no one will ever crack it, I guess there's that. I don't know why that matters.
Thank you for your patience and for being here. We are going to reconvene from executive session now, and we are going to approve any action deemed necessary from executive session.
All of those are listed as separate agenda items, so we will talk about them separately when we get to them on the agenda.
Okay, we are going to go to the consent agenda items. First, we have the minutes of the previous meetings, October 12th and October 22nd are attached. Personnel, contract approval, Dr. Thompson.
I am very excited to bring 2 contracts to you this evening. Lane Johnson would be hired 2nd semester as our junior high special education teacher. She is graduating in December and has been student teaching for us at Jefferson Elementary this fall. The second one is Caitlin Wynot. She also would be hired 2nd semester as our English language arts teacher at Norfolk Senior High. And she is presently student teaching for us in that exact position. So, good hire.
Very nice. And our resignations, Dr. Thompson?
We do.
You do?
Okay. We have one resignation, Elizabeth Edmiston, 4th grade teacher at Jefferson Elementary School.
End of the year?
End of the year, effective end of the year, families relocating.
Yes. Thank you. And we have our claims, Dr. Robinson.
Yes, attached are the claims for the month of November. As stated earlier, they were reviewed by our finance and facility. Also are attached are some conflict statements on specific claims that need to be read before voting. Mr. Mitchell is not here this evening, so that does not need to be read, but it is posted as a claim of conflict if he was present.
Okay, do we read the claims before?
Your conflict statements.
Yeah.
Usually after the motion.
Okay.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second. Okay, we have a motion by Arnie and a second by Tammy. Is there discussion?
Yeah. Out of abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest, and I am abstaining from voting on claim 438 for the month of November in the consent agenda for this meeting. I have signed and will file this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all of the other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other on the items which I have identified or any of the matters set forth therein or related thereto.
Thank you, Patty. Out of an abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest and I'm abstaining from voting on claim 433 for the month of November in the consent agenda for this meeting. I have signed and will file this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent item should not be taken as a vote one way or the other on this item, which I have identified or any of the matters set forth therein or related thereto. Please vote.
And just a quick comment, a large portion of this will be refunded because these were all for attendance at the NASB conference next week, and they have determined that that will be a virtual conference. So meals and some of the costs will be refunded to us.
Hotel.
And how that works is when we get those refunds, we apply it towards the expenditure that was expended, so then it credits itself through the ledger book that way.
Thank you for that clarification. Please vote. Spinning, I can see it says your electronic vote is being transmitted. I don't know what to.
I think I can close the voting and maybe vote for you. That's what I'll try.
Yes, because they won't let me do anything.
Okay. Motion carried 5-0.
Have you know she said yes?
Well, yes.
Oh, okay. But now I'm stuck. Okay, just now figure out what I can do.
You close down.
Yeah, we would have this tower down there. Let's see. Sorry. Yeah. Is it meeting done at Spark? It's called, yes, meetings, Spark with a Q. Not yet. Here we go.
For those of you at home, we are experiencing technical difficulties.
Okay, thank you. 11.1, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the addition of a remote learning option for students second semester for the 2021 school year. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. I would like to recommend that you approve the addition of a remote learning option for students second semester of the 2020-2021 school year as presented earlier by the the remote learning subcommittee.
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of a remote learning option for the students for the second semester of the 2020-2021 school year.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Bob and a second by Patty. Is there any additional discussion? Kind of discussed it to them. Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. 11.2, discuss, consider, and approve the 2021-2022 negotiated agreement for certified staff as negotiated with NCEA. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. This agreement provides an overall salary increase of 2.24%. When including benefits, FICA, and retirement, the total package cost is 3.4%. This is a strong agreement that keeps certified employees from going backwards with their out-of-pocket health insurance costs and a competitive base wage when hiring and competing for quality instructional staff. It's recommended to approve this.
I'll make a motion to approve the 21-22 negotiated agreement for certificated staff.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Tammy and a second by Barney. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to say, as the negotiating, part of the negotiating committee, I would really compliment
Kim Erickson and her negotiating team, Alicia Mesqua and Chuck Fox Owen, coming to the table. Again, it seems year after year we come to the table and we're negotiating from the same team. We're all looking for how we provide the best education for the students in our community. And it's, in light of the political climate we live in, it's really refreshing when we can sit across a negotiating table and have professional discussions, and in our November meeting be accepting our agreement moving forward. And I would just like to publicly recognize Kim and her team for coming to the table ready to take it forward for our district, so thank you.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. 11.3, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the hiring of an additional special education teacher for second semester. Mary Gore.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to propose that we add another special education teacher at Bel Air Elementary due to the caseload size and the diverse needs of the students within that caseload. Bel Air Elementary is a 3-track school and has maintained a caseload of 30+ students with a current special education teacher. Typically, our elementary teachers have this happen for 1 or 2 years, but this has been a constant for Bel Air since all 3 tracks have been added at Bel Air. In order to support the students and the diverse range of needs, we have added support staff, and our district special education specialized instruction staff have been supporting Bel Air several times a week currently due to the student need. However, even with the support, specialized instruction times, it's difficult for the special education teacher to manage towards adequate growth for our students. The elementary level is a key time to help in closing the gap for students. Bel Air does a nice job of interventions prior to referring any student to the SAP process, which is of great importance for all students. The interventions are strong and effective. For most, there are a few students each year that are referred into the SAP team and for possible testing. Currently, there are 31 students on the caseload, with 2 referrals in place along the way, and 1 as another possible referral, which would potentially, can't say that word, which potentially would have our current special education teacher and a caseload of 35 students within the first semester. Do you have any questions at this point?
I'll make a motion to approve hiring an additional special ed teacher for the second semester for Bel Air Elementary.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Bob and a second by Arnie. Is there any discussion? Mary, do you have somebody in mind? Do you think you'll be able to fill this position?
Well, that's the other part. I mean, I hope to be able to fill this position. We did get Wayne Johnson, he's been a great addition next semester, so hopefully there's potential for us to get this as well.
Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
11.4, discuss, consider, and take action to approve temporary COVID bonuses for substitutes. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. We are facing a significant substitute shortage due to COVID-19. We are hoping that the attached incentive recommendations will help alleviate some of that shortage. The highlights of that attached are we would look at increasing our bonus for certified subs from $150 to $300 if you work 20 days per semester, and then an additional $300 if you would work 40 days per semester. We would increase the period pay coverage for staff from $20 an hour to $27 per hour when the staff surrenders their planning period in order to cover for
That's a
teacher.
separate item.
Okay.
That's 11.5.
Okay. We would increase the classified rate for people who are subbing for paras or secretaries, those kinds of things, at 40 cents per hour if you sub 20 days per semester, and then go to 80 cents an hour increase on whatever rate you're at if you sub 40 days per semester. This would, at that 20 and 40 day mark. Originally, we were looking at starting this at second semester. Board would like to make this retroactive and start this during the next pay period on those two categories. So that is a little different from what's in the attachment that says semester 2, so we would make it retroactive. So if you've already hit the 20 days, you would get that pandemic bonus that's on top of what is already in place. Did I express your wishes correctly there?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
I'll move we approve temporary COVID bonuses for substitutes as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Arnie and a second by Tammy. Is there any additional discussion?
I think all measures we can look at and reasonably take action on that will help us with keeping our buildings open and keeping students in school is important. And I appreciate the admin team looking at what are our options and trying to find reasonable, cost-effective ways to give us the best opportunity to keep kids in school.
Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. And if you are a sub out there, please get a hold of Angie Dunn. Or you'd like to be a sub. Yes. If you'd like to be a sub, we'd like to have you come and talk to us. 11.5, discuss, consider, and take action to approve an increase in the compensation provided to teachers when they sub during their plan periods. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. I got a little excited in the previous one. I'm so excited to spend money here. So, well, this is good stuff. This amount has not been increased in several years when we talk about what we pay per period and what staff cover for each other. So it is recommended that we increase it from the $20 per period to it's per period per diem rate. So if you take the base rate of our teachers, first year teacher, BA, and you take that daily rate and you divide it by 7.5, that's the period pay rate that we came up with, which would be $27 per hour. And then we would look at, that would increase every year when the base increases accordingly. So we have a rubric to always go off of. And so teachers can see that they're always getting that base per diem of the period. We hope this, I don't know if it's going to necessarily increase people to cover, but it's certainly going to help people that are giving up their plan periods. And it may get a few more people to help cover. Especially right now, we are really using the teachers quite a bit. And they are coming forward and doing it and so forth, but they're having to plan on their own at home and stuff and those kinds of things. So we think this is a good thing, and we would like to start this as well during the next pay period.
I'll make a motion to approve an increase in the compensation provided to teachers when they sub during their planned periods.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion by Patty and a second by Bob. Discussion. I just want to say thank you, teachers, because we are keeping our buildings open and we couldn't do it without you giving up your planning periods. And this is just a small token of what we can do to say thank you, because we do appreciate you. We know you're giving it all. So thank you so much. Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. 11.6, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the 2021-2022 calendar. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. The proposed and attached calendar was created through collaboration between the administration and the district calendar committee. It is very similar to our current 2020-2021 calendar, but there are two changes worth noting. First, it is recommended that we only have half of our students on the first and second day of school. We did this at the beginning of the school year this year, and it worked very well. Staff and administration both indicated that it helps them develop relationships with students and really teach them the expectations and procedures for the school year. And second, staff appreciation has been moved to the first early out in May rather than the last. Staff have indicated that they are anxious to be in their classrooms on that last Wednesday and would rather have staff appreciation earlier in the month.
I'll make a motion to approve the 21-22 calendar.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Tammy and a second by Patty. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. 11.7, discuss, consider, and take action to grant permission to let bids for grades K2 TWIG Science Program and Materials. Beth Nelson.
As mentioned earlier, we've gone through an extensive piloting process and we've really studied quite a few different programs, and it's been a very popular program the TWIG pilot has, and comes with high recommendations from the K2 pilot teachers. So would appreciate your permission to allow us to bid that project.
I'll make a motion to grant permission to let bids for grades K2 TWIG Science Program and Materials.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Bob and a second by Patty. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. 11.8, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the first reading of board policies 6283 through 6920 instruction. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Dr. Patty Googles went over these changes very thoroughly earlier during her policy committee report, but I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of board policies 6283 through 6920.
I'll second. I'm so busy listening. I've got a motion by Bob and a second by Tammy. Is there any discussion? That was very good, Patty. Thank you for that. Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. 11.9, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the first reading of board policies 4025, professional boundaries, 4031, injury leave, 5008, attendance policy and excessive absenteeism, 8342, designated method of giving notice of meetings, and 4270, staff payments during closure. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Once again, Dr. Patty Googles went over these earlier this evening, and I would just reiterate that the changes made to these policies, or in some cases the addition of these policies altogether, are really just required by changes to state statute. But I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of these policies as listed.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Tammy and a second by Arnie. Any additional discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. We are to 11.10, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the second and final reading of board policies 6,000 through 6,282 related to instruction. Dr. Thompson.
No changes have been made to these policies since their first reading last month.
I'll make a motion to approve the second and final reading of board policies 6,000 through 6282 related to instruction.
I'll second. Motion by Patty, second by Tammy. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. And now 11.11, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the resignation of Dr. Patty Googles, effective December 31st. Dr. Thompson.
Now, as you know, Dr. Patty Googles has been elected to the Nebraska State School Board, which is quite an accomplishment. Unfortunately, state statute will not allow her to serve on both boards simultaneously. She has submitted her letter of resignation effective December 31st. And although we hate to lose her on the board, I know that she will be a strong addition and a strong advocate on the state board, and we definitely need strong leadership there. So I look forward to working with you, Patty, in that new role. Assuming you accept her resignation, because it is the law. We will, according to state statute and board policy, advertise the open seat on our board, accept applications, and then we will interview and select her replacement in open session.
If you need for me to be here for the January meeting, in order to have a quorum, I would gladly do that and change the date that it's effective. If you don't need me, that's fine.
That probably depends on Mr. Lake and Mr. Robinson.
I can be here in January. Okay.
Bob's not quite so.
I'll be here.
Okay, be here. We should be fine then. Thank you.
I will make a motion to approve the resignation of Dr. Patty Bugles effective December 31st, 2020.
I am not going to second that motion.
I am going to reluctantly accept that, or second that.
We have a motion by Tammy and a second by Bob. Would you like to discuss Patty?
I would just like to thank you for your service. I appreciate getting to know you professionally. As a former neighbor, you get to know somebody a little bit, but then, get to learn from each other professionally. And appreciate your time on the board and your in-depth look in all areas. And when you served on the committee, you gave it everything. So that's important. So, and I know you'll do the same at the state level. We need that.
Thank you.
Yes, Patty, thank you. Oh, okay, I'll go ahead. I'm sad to not have Patty here because I do think she brings such a breadth of knowledge and experience to the board. But I'm very excited that we have one of our own on the State Board of Education and someone that we know and trust and will do an amazing job. So thank you so much for your willingness to serve at a whole new level, because that's a whole different ballgame. And a lot of people wouldn't want to do that. So I really am grateful that you're willing to step up and fill that role. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have really appreciated all that you've done for us. Your knowledge has been said before, but all those experiences you brought were immensely beneficial to the Norfolk schools and to the kids here. And I trust and I believe that you will continue conducting yourself in that same fashion at the state level. And believe me, we are in need of help. So thank you for your service for us, and good luck over the next 4 years.
Thanks, Bob.
I'd like to vote no on this one, but I will go ahead and vote yes on it. Patty, I would say you have, without a doubt, made this school district better throughout your service on this board. You have challenged all of us to be better as board members and better as administrators, and we have become better as a district. And I thank you for that. I appreciate what you've brought to us. You've taken a little bit of a hard time tonight about the policy, but the willingness to dig into it and make sure we get it right is huge. For us to go to look at it from a citizen in our state and know what our State Board of Education is getting, and to have good, professional, smart people making policy for our state will be outstanding. So I say thank you for your willingness to have been a part of this board for the last 6 years, and your willingness to continue that service and do that for our whole state. So thank you very much, Patty.
Thanks,
We will miss you. You have such expertise, Patty. I mean, I am so glad you got all the way through policy once, because I think now the next people will have it a little easier, because that was tough. But yes, continue on fighting a good fight for us, and I love it that you have gone on, because we have an advocate, we know. Thank you, Patty.
Thanks, Angie.
Please vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. Well, we have made it to the end. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Monday, December 14th, 2020. The business meeting will begin at 5:30 p.m. All components of these meetings will be held at the MPS Central Admin Office and will be open to the public unless an executive session is needed in order to protect the interest of the district or the reputation of an individual. With that, we will go into executive session with a motion.
I'll move, we move into executive session to discuss staffing issues as needed to protect the interest of the district.
I'll second the motion.
And we have a motion by Arnie and a second by Patty. No discussion, please vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Thank you, Mary.
And we do not anticipate any items after this, so you are welcome to go home this time.
You can stay if you want.
Yeah.
I think I want that.
I think you should. Please relay this.